Hi folks, it's only me cutting out some track anvils today. I was watching some YouTubes and some guys had some questions that I didn't feel about, mostly about torching, that I didn't feel were answered too accurately. So I'm just going to tell you what I do. Here's when I started roughing out. I cut this section with the torch. Front and back. If I'm gonna trim a little out of the back. If you're gonna put a pritchel hole, you have to trim a little out of the back. You got to trim it out of here to have your horn extended, of course. I try to take as least material out of the track as possible because, you know, you want your anvil to be heavy. So, you know, I mean, you can stylize them by putting cutouts here, but you know, it depends what you want it for. I try to keep as much weight in it as I can because it's not a very big piece of metal to begin with. So this I cut with the torch. It cuts well. This then I cut with the wafer wheel, where I have my lines here. This I find a center line, and then I'll cut this with the wafer wheel, and I'll cut a line across here with the wafer wheel, a stop line. For when I grind it out. Here's one. That's one I finished yesterday. I made that in a couple hours using, again, the torch for this and a wafer wheel in here, and then a grinder and a flapper wheel, sanding wheel. Not that fancy, but it's a good bench anvil. Getting back to the torch. Guys asked, you know, the settings. When I was a Boilermaker, we always set our torch at 40 oxygen, 8 acetylene. Set your gauges at 40 oxygen, 8 acetylene. That's what we always did. We cut all thicknesses of metal. I mean, you'd run a torch for days sometimes. Scrapping out boilers, and never, you know, that was our rule of thumb, and we never had any problem. Sometimes if you're running into something really heavy or really nasty, you might want to turn your oxygen up. I turn it up, you know, a couple of lines, maybe 42 or 43 is the most I go. At 40 and 8 to me works. Now tip size, I think some companies use different numbers on their torches than others, but it's just a lot of common sense, I think. Here's a tip. I don't know if it's focused, but that's a smaller tip. It's got a lot of numbers on it. I don't know what they mean. But the holes are small, and so it's obviously for finer work. This tip is a little bigger. The holes are a little bigger. The oxygen hole is bigger. So it's for a little heavier work. This is the one I'm using on the tracks. This only has 4 acetylene holes and 1 nice big oxygen hole in the middle. This works great. This is for heavier metal. If I had to guess, I'd say it's a 3, possibly a 4. But I think we used to call these 3s at work. But just look at your tip, and you know, it's common sense. That's a good tip for cutting these. And you can see it wasn't slagged up. That hasn't been touched yet. I tapped it with the chip and hammer, and that's about it. Now it's ready to be cleaned up. So they rough out nice. The other thing is with your grinding wheels, they last better. You know, they last better. They're safer, and it's less stress on your grinder if you cut into the metal. Look at the way your wheel's spinning. Most grinders are marked with an arrow, even the way that it's spinning. Cut into your metal, not out of your metal. When you cut out of your metal, that's what grabs the wheel and breaks it. If you can't cut that way without breaking it, you're going to stress the grinder more. So that's why that arrow is on there. So you can cut into your metal, not out of your metal, and you'll like it better. And your wheels will last longer because they're not cheap. the 5-inch wheels they make now, you can, and you know, of course, you know, up to your own discretion. If you take the guard off your 4.5-inch grinder, you can use 5-inch wheels, or the new grinders, you know, are made to fit a 5-inch wheel with the guard on. Milwaukee's are anyway, which is mostly what I like using. Okay, here's one last anvil to look at. It's a pretty nice one. Nice style to it. If you can find a big piece of track, you know, you're limited to your own imagination with these things. So that's that, and find some track and have at it.